tweet it out. All right, we'll let people get in here for a little bit. But it's Daytona 500 day. Finally.
It's been too long, man.
It has. Feels good though. Jordan Maccabee here, Rotoballer, Nick Giffen of the Action Network. We're here to talk about building lineups for DraftKings, maybe some bets, overall fantasy. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments. We'll get to them. But Nick, any good bets you like today?
Any good bets I like today? Yeah, I mean, Eric Jones is still 35-1. My model has him 25-1. So if you haven't taken Eric Jones yet, 35-1 is a nice price. And then outside of that, I think a lot of the value comes in some of these oddball plays. Like, I don't hate like if you take Cody Ware or Riley Herbst for a top 10, maybe. I think Riley Herbst's price is probably too short, but I don't mind Cody Ware for a top 10 because these races could get crazy. So 14-1 on Cody Ware. What does my model have here? Let me pull up my Sims. Oh, man, all over the place here. But I think Cody Ware 14-1 is a value. I have him at 7.9% to finish in the top 10. So what's that? 0.79 minus 1. Yeah, that's like plus 11.75 fair value. So I don't hate that. I might actually tack that on. I haven't bet it yet, but I might tack that on. And other than that, I think Eric Almirola outright. If you can still get him 33-1, if you can get his top Ford or Bell's top Toyota at prices longer than 10 and 5 respectively, so longer than 10-1 top Toyota or top Ford for Eric Almirola and longer than 5-1 for Christopher Bell top Toyota, I'd take those as well. So this is kind of where I'm at on bets. And everything else, I think we're kind of set. I've bet a lot this week, so I don't have too much more I'm looking to bet. So I've already bet the Bell and the Almirola and the Jones stuff, so it's nothing new for me there. Right. So the only new one would potentially be Cody Ware top 10.
Yeah, I'm on Harvick 25 and Bell 30. Those have been my favorite.
I like Bell 30 just because I have his top Toyota. I don't need to take 30. So it's just one of those things where it's like, well, I got that, so I don't need to play both because if he wins, he's going to be top Toyota anyway.
Yeah.
But I am showing value on Bell at 30-1. Absolutely, showing pretty good value there too.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
For sure.
I like both of them in the dual race, and they didn't do anything to make me not like them. So, solid there.
I agree.
Let's get right into these lineups. We're gonna talk lineups. Let's see here. First question: anyone 10-18 moving to the back irrelevant? No,
I don't give a shit about people moving to the back.
Yeah, if anything, I welcome it because it'll get people off of them a little bit. It does not matter where you're at or where you start at Daytona whatsoever.
Exactly. Yeah, I literally don't give a shit if you start in the back or in the front, other than what your true starting position is, right? Like, if you start fourth, I'm not going to play you probably.
Lowest amount of salary you're comfortable leaving on the table for DraftKings. I do not take salary into account whatsoever. I don't care if it's 15,000. I don't care if it's 3,000 left.
Yep, same here.
This is all about your strategy of building a lineup, not the actual amount. Right. You should never take into account salary cap at Daytona or Talladega ever. It's
completely agree. Yeah, I don't give a shit about it.
Talladega last year was the only exception that ended up with the full 50K, but I think we talked about this on Stacking Denny's. The chances of that happening ever again is for the optimal is it's not going to happen. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, salary does not matter today. A couple guys. Who's your favorite like long shot? Outside of just stack the back, who's your favorite play this week on this DraftKings slate? or
Yeah,
some of the guys you like a lot?
I wrote up 4 guys at my article over in Fantasy Labs, and I think my favorite play. I have 2 favorite plays. The first is Justin Haley. I love him this week. If he's going to be even so, my projection for his ownership is 9.1%. I think that's like way too low. I actually think he's probably going to be in the mid-teens, but even then, I would play him like close to 30%. I love Justin Haley at this track. And then I also wrote up Daniel Suarez as my Paul Menard pick of the week because everybody hates Daniel Suarez. If anytime I talked about Daniel Suarez, somebody's first reaction was like, ugh. And if that's everybody's first reaction, then nobody's going to play him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. One of these times, Daniel Suarez is going to actually finish a race at Daytona. And, where does he start today? I forget.
25th, something like that.
Yeah,
24th?
I mean, that's a solid
24th.
play. So if he's going to be, lower owned like that, I'm right there with you on Suarez.
Look how good he was in his duel, aside from wrecking Kyle Busch, right? Like he was in second when he wrecked Kyle Busch by accident because they were so good. And then, of course, he slid through his pit box, and that kind of just ruined his day. But his duel, so people are down on him because of that. They're down on him because he already sucks as a super speedway racer. They're down on him because he wrecked Kyle Busch. They're down on him because he slid through his pit box. So if people aren't going to play him, I'm going to play him.
Yeah, and that's the exact mindset you need to have with Daytona and stuff. And to go with that, Ross Chastain, his teammate, obviously starts 23rd. Probably going to be decently high owned, but same mindset, I think, because Suarez's car was that good. Then that Chastain has something to work with, and Chastain isn't going to be a Michael McDowell, and just ride around and hope for a good finish. Chastain's going to go out there to win the race. So,
yeah, 100%.
Those are the type of guys you definitely want to get heavy on. Here's a good one. Over under Kyle Busch 59.5% ownership in the Millie.
50. What was that?
59.5.
Under. Last year, Denny Hamlin was 53 point something and started a little bit. He started 30th, and there were some other good guys in the back with him, like Austin Dillon, Eric Almirola. So I do think Kyle Busch will be in that Denny Hamlin neighborhood, but he also doesn't have the Denny Hamlin super speedway reputation, so that brings it down a little bit. So I'm going to say under 59.5%. My projection is in that mid 50s neighborhood.
I'm right. Yeah, I'm at 57 projected. So I agree under. There's too many. Johnson's starting back there. You got Stenhouse starting back there too. So that's going to kind of affect Ty Gibbs starting back there. Like it's going to, and Pastrana, but that's going to kind of just take away from Kyle Busch because people aren't going to want to fully stack the back. But yeah, Kyle Busch, I think that's going to be the biggest question that a lot of people have this week is what do you do with Kyle Busch? Because, he's strong. He's aggressive at super speedways. He showed he had a very good car in the duel. He probably had the best car. He said his backup car now is just as good.
Yeah.
Where are you at on that? Because, you and I both think the same when it comes to DraftKings and everything else. We're a little contrarian. We like to go underweight on chalk a lot, especially at Daytona. If you get a guy that's hitting over 50% ownership, is your play today to go underweight on Kyle Busch? You kind of try to stay with the field in that 50% range. What are you thinking there?
I'm going to be under on Kyle Busch. I'm not going to be in the 50% range. I'll be under 50%. I probably will be even, and don't get me wrong, I love Kyle Busch, but I think if I play 35% to 40%, or even like just 33 to 40% of the time, if I play Kyle Busch, even if he ends up in the optimal lineup, if I'm leveraged in other key spots, I think I'll have a good shot at having some top lineups, even if I'm severely underweight and he still ends up in the optimal lineup. So my optimal projection for Kyle Busch in terms of being in the winning lineup, not in terms of cashing, but just in terms of being the winning lineup, is 40%. So I think if you want to go over 40%, I'm fine with that because, cashing is important as well. So if you want to go like 45%, I think that's very fair on Kyle Busch. Even if you want to get up close to 50%, but I'd rather be underweight on him simply because my optimal says 40%. And There's not going to be a whole lot more you need to play him to cash. So I think 45 makes a lot of sense if you're trying to build a portfolio. I'm strictly going for the win. It's Millionaire Maker. It's top loaded. The only thing I give a shit about is winning the fucking Millionaire Maker. So I'm leveraging, and I'm going to go like between 33 and 40%, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see.
To be fair, if you care about cashing, you probably shouldn't even be playing the Millionaire Maker. If you're playing, something else like the Lug Nut or whatever it is, then totally fine with, having some more Kyle Busch, etc.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears a little bit, would you add any other top 5 salary drivers in addition to Blaney in a lineup, or is that, top 5 salary drivers are Elliott, Hamlin, Blaney, Logano, Larson? I'm not touching Larson. I'm probably not touching Logano.
I have 0% Logano.
Yeah, they just start way too high. The whole top 5 and everything is just
even if he wins, he's the way these super speedway races are these days. He's probably not going to dominate. And here's a fun little fact: Joey Logano has finished outside the top 10 in 13 of his last 14 super speedway races at either Daytona or Talladega.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious? I didn't even know that.
Dead serious.
He's
only finished inside the top 10 once in the last 14 at the super speedways. And I'm not counting Atlanta as a super speedway because it's not a super speedway.
Huh. Yeah, because, we start talking about Daytona, Talladega, you immediately go to Logano. My algorithm has him projected second, which, he's one of the strongest, and plus, Ford power, Penske power. But
wow, there's no doubt he'll have one of the best cars. But at the same time, he either has one of the best cars and finishes near the front, or he wrecks out. And, he doesn't just like simply dominate everything. So nobody really does these days. I mean, last year, I don't think there was a single driver that like completely dominated the proceedings. I mean, Ryan Blaney led the most laps last year at the 4 super speedways, and he led 90 in 4 races combined.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that's what we're going to see this year. I don't think we're going to see anybody dominate the race. So if you're starting in the front, you're not going to end up in the optimal lineup unless you get a good chunk of dominator points. And I just don't see it happening.
And, last year there was quite a few guys that started up front that ended up, doing pretty well. But, you can't go off of one that's one race out of a very large sample size. It just doesn't work. So I know you and I are on the same page here. 0 Alex Bowman, 0 Kyle Larson, 0 Joey Logano, correct?
I have nobody starting in the first 2 rows. No Eric Almirola either.
So Christopher Bell is kind of where you start to get a little bit, but it's small.
It's super small, 1% to 2%, maybe 3% or 4%. I can't remember what my exact exposure is. Plus, I haven't even finalized my lineups. What I'm doing is I'm building 500 lineups, and then I'm going to randomly sample from them and throw 150 of them in the Millionaire Maker. So my exposures will be about, 2.5% on Christopher Bell. It could be a little lower. It could be a little higher, depending on the random sample that I take. And that's the whole point. Like, I don't care what lineups go in what, in the Millionaire Maker or anything like that. I just generate 500 of them, and then I pick 150 of them randomly. So I'm not sitting here worrying about which lineup goes in which contest. I do only care for the high dollar contests. So I am entering the $500 entry contest. And so I'm going to hand build those lineups, but the rest of them, like, I don't care. I'm just using the Fantasy Labs optimizer and just building 500 lineups and then throwing 150 of them in the million and some of the others in other contests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what, I had a couple people last night ask me lineup questions, and I'm like, this is so random. Like, it is all about the strategy you take building this lineup. It does not matter who it is. Right. Names don't matter. One thing, there's a lot of typically when we get to Daytona, we get the lower, not the lower teams, but like the drivers that pretty much this is the only race that they could possibly win. So we got a lot of those starting pretty high up. What do you think there's leverage to be gained there by taking a guy like Corey LaJoie starting 12th, Todd Gilliland 14th, Zane Smith 17th? Is there anything there? Even Michael McDowell there starting 11th, or is that too risky to be overweight on those guys?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The funny thing is, I'm projecting Corey LaJoie for around 5.8% ownership, and I have him optimal at 3.4. So I actually think there's leverage in just not having Corey LaJoie.
That's funny. I have him projected at 5.9% ownership. So we're just
Yeah.
like last year, we're right there. We're close on a lot of stuff.
So I actually think there's value in. Let me ask your Haley projection, because that's the one I disagree with the most on mine.
I got him projected at 10.4.
I had him at, what was it, 9%, something like that. So we're
I
actually not too far off.
I think 10's too low.
I like I said, I think 9's too low. I think it's going to be in the mid-teens, maybe even the upper teens. But either way, I'm going to want 25+% on Haley.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you also? I also have Allmendinger projected relatively low at about 15%. Are you increasing correlation with those two guys, Haley and Allmendinger, with them being teammates?
I've done no correlations so far. I actually don't necessarily think we need to do any correlations because these races are so crazy. The only real correlation I think that we would need is these back markers. And I honestly just, even then, like if you look at last year's Daytona 500, it wasn't filled with back markers. It wasn't filled with David Reagan and Cody Ware and BJ McLeod. And, it just basically had David Reagan of the shit boxes. So, I'm not even correlate. I've done zero correlation. The only thing I've done is in the Fantasy Labs optimizer, I set 3 rules for like drivers starting in certain positions, like no more than 2 starting inside the top 12, no more than 3 starting inside the top 20, and at least 3 starting, I think like 20 whatever or worse, 23rd or worse. I don't remember the exact number. Let me pull up the starting lineup here. Yeah, right after Noah Gragson. So at least 3 starting 23rd or worse. So those are the 3 like positional rules I set. And then, because I feel like there's a tier between Gragson and Ross Chastain. I could have done like after Daniel Suarez, but because I'm going to be Daniel Suarez pick of the week, I made it after between Gragson and Chastain and said to do at least 3 from there back. And then the only other rule I set was of these guys starting forward that aren't like favorites. So, and I don't have any Austin Cindric exposure. So let's go through it. Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Corey LaJoie, Todd Gilliland, Zane Smith, Harrison Burton, and Ryan Preece. I said have at most one of them because I feel like those are the guys that aren't going to like dominate, which I don't mind having 2 of like Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace, right? If they're going to finish 1-2 and one of them's going to dominate or have, not necessarily dominate, but lead 20 laps, or they could each lead 20 laps, right? So I could easily see a scenario like that. Whereas I don't see Zane Smith leading 20 laps, and I don't see Michael McDowell leading 20 laps. So I don't want both of them. You know what I mean? So even if they finish 1-2, I actually don't even think both will end up in the optimal lineup. So I said at most pick just like one of those guys. So those are only 4 rules I set when building.
Projected ownership for Priest seems like a wild card today. I love playing Ryan Priest today. Like that range is where I like that, 19 to 25 range. I just love playing drivers in there because nobody knows what to do with them specifically. And you got a lot of good drivers in that range. So Ryan Priest starts 20th. William Byron starts 21st. Chastain 23rd. Gragson 22nd. Daniel Suarez 24th. Eric Jones. I love Eric Jones today. 25th. What do you think? Like Ryan Priest has shown in the past, he's really good at Daytona. He's in a Ford. He's in Stewart Haas. I love Ryan Priest. Where are you at on him?
So first of all, I have him at 10.5 projected ownership. I don't know what you have.
11.5.
Yeah, so we're 1% apart. And I have him 11% optimal. So if you take our average, 11.5 and 10.5, that's 11%. And he's 11% optimal. So I'm just going to play him about 11%. There's no leverage there. So I'm just going to play him right at where we think he's going to be. And that's actually what I have him set at. So right now, based off my 500 lineups, I have him at 10.6%. And so if the random draw, maybe it ends up a little less than 10.6, maybe that ends up a little more than 10.6, but it's going to be in that 10.6 neighborhood, give or take a little bit, because I'm picking 150 out of 500. So, I mean, there could be a high variance. I mean, it could be as much as 15 or it could be as low as 5%, I would guess, just based off how the luck of the draw goes. But, my target is in that 11% range there for Ryan Preece. The one thing I will say is he didn't look that great in his duel. He was kind of just riding. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. And when people say he's great at Daytona, I feel like he's been lucky at Daytona. He's kind of like Chris Buescher. Like he just avoids the crashes and finishes third or something.
Yeah.
But he doesn't like take the lead. He's like Chris Buescher or Michael McDowell, where they're good. They know how to survive, but they don't take the lead. And if you're going to win the Daytona 500 like Michael McDowell did, you're going to have to get lucky because you're not taking the lead yourself for the most part. The way Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500 is the two teammate cars in front of him, Keselowski and Logano, wrecked. And so he just drove through. Like, that was it. He didn't take the lead. He had zero chance to win that if Logano and Keselowski played nice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about Ryan Preece. Like, I don't think he's going to take the win here. So he's going to have to get super lucky to win. Now, he doesn't necessarily have to win to be in the optimal, but he has to do the survive and advance thing. And I think that happens about 1 in 10, 1 in 11, or 1 in 9, 1 in 10 times.
Sean Trailer, good luck today, boys. Hope we all smash. Hey, defending Millie Maker winner there.
That's right.
So good luck to you going back to back as well. Although
I hope one of us has to pay some severe taxes.
Yeah, the taxes, man. Here's a good question. Does the choose rule have any impact on potentially stacking lineups with teammates or manufacturers? I think that is getting way too, you're overthinking this. Like there's no way to possibly predict or assume that this is going to have a major impact in the race. I don't think. Because you're also with that, you're also relying on the teammates being together when the caution flies and after the pit stops.
Yeah, or even just late in the race. Like it's tough. I mean, obviously they're going to line up together if they can, but that doesn't even necessarily mean they're going to end up at the front together. Look at JGR was 2, 3, 4, 5 in the Xfinity race yesterday with 2 to go, and they wadded up one of their cars and wadded up 2 of their cars. I should say 2, 3, 4, 5 with not 2 to go because Brandon Jones wrecked several laps before that. But so then Jones wrecked, and then Sam Mayer wrecked, and then Josh Berry had a problem, and so only Justin Allgaier ended up of the junior motorsports cars in the front. So it's like, even if you're sitting there 2, 3, 4, 5 with a handful of laps to go, that doesn't guarantee shit.
Yeah. It's one of those things with Daytona. You just try not to overthink stuff too much. You know, you can always. That's so easy.
Last year, I overthought things because remember we had that rain out, and then I was like, okay, well, now that it's going to be in the heat of the day, I think maybe there's this, and then less chance of rain, less chance of chaos. So I went a little less on those back marker guys that I was at 15 or 20, 17% David Reagan, and I went down to 10%, and that potentially cost me a good shot at $1 million. I mean, obviously I still had a good shot at $1 million, but it potentially, because David Reagan ended up in the optimal lineup. I think I would have been okay if I had some more David Reagan exposure. I don't think I would have gone from $1 million to negative 33% ROI. I think I would have gone from $1 million to maybe negative 15% ROI, or who knows? I could have had a lucky lineup that hit for 5 or 10 or 20,000 or $1 million still. So don't overthink things.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. Like, I overthought things last year. I'm still learning. And one of the lessons is to not overthink.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just stick to your strategy and roll with it. Don't overthink. Do you know of any teams planning to just ride it out in the back? I feel like Toyotas or Stewart Haas could be candidates. I do feel like Stewart Haas does it a lot. But that's one of those things, like, you just never know, because there'll be times when, Hamlin will be up there fighting for the lead and he thinks it's getting too dicey and he'll just get out of line and go to the back. There's definitely certain teams. Harvick does it a lot. Cole Custer always did it a lot. Newman did it a lot, where they, most of the time, they go and just hang out in the back and try to avoid the trouble. But it's not,
it's not consistent. Right?
Yeah.
We've seen times where Martin Truex Jr. goes for stage wins, and we've seen times where Martin Truex Jr. rides in the back. How am I going to know which Martin Truex Jr. we're getting there?
Yeah. There's no way. Like, teams don't tell. And yeah,
We also don't know what the pit strategy is going to be, right? So typically those manufacturers like to come in together, and we don't know when that's going to be. So that also could affect whether they ride in the front or in the back or anything like that. Because if they think they've found an advantage on pit strategy, maybe it's by running up front and coming in early. And so you don't, or maybe it's by running in the back and then those guys all come in. Who knows? So it's just too hard to guess at that. We're spitballing. And even if they're riding in the back, it doesn't necessarily mean anything come the third stage. Because in the third stage, at some point, you're no longer riding in the back.
Here's a strategy type of question. How many DraftKings lineups do you have today trying to find the right balance of profit possibility and enjoyment?
I can't tell you what you should do for enjoyment. But profit possibility, I mean, it's just for however many lineups you have, you just got to find the right leverage situations. If you think a driver is going to be too low owned, go overweight on them. If you think a driver is going to be too highly played, go under. That's pretty much it, because we can't predict this race. We don't know what's going to happen. But we can predict human behavior a lot better. We can forecast these ownership projections 70+% accuracy. We can forecast the race 10 to 15% accuracy.
Yeah. So, then it comes down to, like I said, it's all about strategy. So you got guys starting pretty far back that are going to be under owned. Like, I think Ty Dillon's going to be under owned today. I think Ty Gibbs is going to be under owned today. Even Chase Briscoe there starting 30th, I think is going to go under owned to what he should be, just where he starts. So, yeah. Speaking of guys starting in the back, we had a question here. Thoughts on Jimmy Johnson in a lineup? Absolutely. Cash game, 100%. Even tournaments, I think you need to be in that 30-something% range with Jimmy Johnson.
Totally agree. Yeah. I have, no fear of playing Jimmy in this one.
And, he's not this is a great race for him to, come back and make another start. He's in the Legacy Motorsports club or Motor Club car, which if you go back to last year, Eric Jones competed. He was a legitimate contender to win in 3 of the 4 super speedway races. So I think Johnson's going to have a great car. He starts 39th. You cannot go wrong with picking Jimmy Johnson. Great pick today. Thoughts on Connor Daly and BJ McLeod? I know that Connor Daly's car, man. That thing is the definition of a shitbox.
Yeah. So I have Connor Daly projected worst in the field of all 40 cars. And I'm still showing his
I think
optimal.
I do too.
And I still show his optimal just in case, even if he finishes 2 laps down and there's absolute chaos, and he moves from whatever his starting position is to 13th or 15th, there's a possibility he could end up in the winning lineup. So where the heck is Connor Daly in my numbers here? There it is. So I have him projected 9% in the optimal lineup as the worst car in the field. Now, I'm not going to have 9% Connor Daly. I'm going to be right in that 7.5% projected ownership range. So I'm just kind of going even with the field. I think my ownership, even though I have him projected at 9% optimally, I think that's a little optimistic from my model. So I'm just going about where I'm projecting his ownership, which is about 7.5%.
Yeah. The thing with Connor Daly, I think for him to get in the optimal, it's going to take mass chaos, because he won't have, even if half the field wrecks with 5 laps to go, he doesn't even have the car he wouldn't be able to compete,
right,
to even move up. So he's going to need extreme chaos, which, and it doesn't really help that he's not starting dead last. Yeah, it's only 6 positions, but it's still 6 positions. He's starting 34th. I don't know if I can. I'm going to have some Connor Daly exposure, but I'm not going to have a ton.
And I think similar for BJ McLeod, other than I think his car is more reliable. It'll be able to hang there better, but I don't think he has the car to move up through the field, kind of to what you're saying with Connor Daly. Whereas I think Cody Ware and Riley Herbst could at least try to do something. I just feel like those are a little better than BJ McLeod's car. It's not to say BJ can't. I just think it's far more unlikely that he and Connor Daly, even if they're on the lead lap at the end, are able to make some headway. Whereas I think it's a little more likely with the Ware cars, especially as we've seen from David Reagan in the past. And I think it's more possible there.
Mm-hmm. I think Herbst is one of those guys that not a lot of people are talking about.
I love Riley Herbst. I think I'm like 20% on him over those 500 lineups. I wrote him up as one. I said I wrote up 4 guys for overweight / Paul Menard pick of the week, and Riley Herbst was one of those 4.
Yeah, that's a solid pick, and yeah, definitely going to be overweight. I have him projected about 9% ownership, which, you know, a guy starting 38th needs to be significantly higher than that. Let's see here. Let's talk about Travis Pastrana. What are we expecting out of this guy today?
I don't know. I mean, we saw him in the truck race, and this is what I said this early in the week. I think on Stacking Denny's, I was like, this is the guy, if he makes the show, I might be most confused on. And my model has him projected just slightly so his car is really good. Obviously, he has a great car.
Mm-hmm.
Him as a driver, I think, is what hurts him. So my driver prior on him is pretty low. So blending the two, I have him around like the LaJoy or the Ty Dillon LaJoy, like Spire cars. Although I obviously have LaJoy better than Ty Dillon, but not by that much at a super speedway. And then, so I have him like right around the Spire cars essentially as like his quality. But if you're starting in dead last in a Spire car, you have a chance to end up in the optimal lineup, right? But he's not in a Spire car. He's in a car better than that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think his experience level is good enough to get him there. And what we saw in the truck race, we saw him do fine. He rode around. He drafted, but he wasn't aggressive. He didn't make moves to get to the front. He kind of was just there and took what came to him. So I don't, it's kind of similar to like we talked about with BJ McLeod, not in that I think he has BJ McLeod equipment, but I think his ability to move forward is going to be limited. I think he'll need a push because I don't think it's going to be him making those slicing and dicing moves. And I think it's going to be tough for him to finish inside the top like 8, let's say, unless it's really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if he finishes 12th, starting 40th, he gets in the optimal lineup, right? So or at least near the optimal lineup. So I still am going to have a good chunk of him. I don't know the exact number. I think I have 28% on him as like my target. And I wouldn't hate it if I was a little bit higher, and I wouldn't hate it if I was a little bit lower than that, just because I have no fucking clue what to do with him. Just straight up honest, I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah. I you know, if I'm pivoting, I think I'm going off of Pastrana onto Herbst in that range, that starting range, just to get a little, you know, if I wanted to pivot in a contest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
How one guy we didn't talk about, got that Tecate.
Get the over under on these.
we didn't set a line for this one. Harrison Burton starting 19th. He's in that range that I was talking about. You know, it's nobody knows what to do with him. Obviously, Burton has the forward power. I feel like he showed last year on super speedways he can compete. He can get up there. He's kind of like Todd Gilliland. Mm-hmm. Sneaky play. You liking Harrison Burton at all today? I haven't projected at 7% ownership.
6.6 here. I have him 9% optimal, so I've leveraged him up to around 10% ownership. Or sorry, not ownership, of my target number. So my target number is right at around 9.9% for his usage. That doesn't mean it'll be a 9.9% of my Millie lineups, because he's a 9.9% of my 500 lineups I've built. And I'm going to select 150 of those at random. So it could be a little more than 9.9. It could be a little less than 9.9, but that's the target number I have on him.
Mm-hmm. I'm new to NASCAR betting. What's the big play of the day? So welcome to the awesome world of NASCAR betting. It is the most frustrating but most rewarding betting out there.
So last 3 years, this whole week so far for me has been, Clash was good. This whole week's been frustrating for me because I nearly won that Christopher Bell bet. I had a 50-1 on Tanner Gray, finished second in the truck race. So like I've been very close so far this week, but nothing has transpired. I got killed in the Xfinity race, and that's okay. I'd make all those bets again. I don't think there's a single bet I've regretted that I've made this week, but I guess other than the Tyler Reddick one in the second duel, I didn't like that one. Looking back on it, even though I showed model value on it, he ended up being worse than I thought. So the bet of the day, the big play of the day. What do you got, Jordan? What do you think?
I'm so big on Harvick 25-1. I love that value right there.
I
And
prefer your
Christopher
Bell
Bell
bet to your Harvick bet.
I like them both. Bell 30-1. Those are my favorites. And I really like the stage bets that I put in.
I love
I
the
know
Kyle
you're
Busch stage bet.
yes.
Dude. That's my
Kyle
favorite
Busch,
one.
Kyle Busch stage 1, 25-1 Love that. Also
Absolutely.
grabbed Hamlin at 16-1, and then I threw
like that.
Truex in there. Truex in there at 30-1.
Like that.
Just because he won both stages last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my favorite. But here's the thing with NASCAR betting. We talked about this on Stacking Denny's. You have to assume that you're going to lose every single bet. I've made 10 bets, I think, maybe 12, since the Clash. I have lost all but 2 of them, but I'm up over 4 units because of them. That is what NASCAR betting is all about. You like a good sports bettor in general. If you're betting on football or basketball, hits 55 to 60% of their bets. Like that's very good for a sports bettor. NASCAR, if you're hitting 25 to 30%, you're having a really good
Even
year.
20%. You can be fine. You can profit depending on, the. So I've made on my tracking sheet, I have 19 bets that I've made. My expected wins on the bets based off of the odds that I got. So you can translate odds into an implied win probability. So if you're betting something at 9-1, that means to break even, you need to hit it 1 out of 10 times. So 10%. So the expected wins on that would be 0.1 win. So out of my 19 bets, my expected win probability for my 19 Daytona 500 bets adds up to 2.7 bets won. So if I win 3 of my 19 bets, I'm like doing better than expected. That's because, we're taking long shots for the most part. The only bet that I have favored to win is the one you and I made on Stacking Denny's live.
Yes, that was awesome. The chaos of live betting was just amazing.
Yeah, that was insane.
But yeah, that's my biggest thing with NASCAR betting. You just have to assume you're going to lose a lot more often. Like, get comfortable with losing. Greg Mathern, he wrote something last year like, I lose a lot.
It's okay to lose or whatever.
Yes,
I lose a lot and that's okay. Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's you have to get comfortable with losing. I mean, anybody that sits here and tells you that they win every week in NASCAR is, 1, they're a liar, or 2, they're the type of people that bet 10 different drivers just so they can say that they hit the winner. And that's fine if that's your strategy. I don't see that being profitable long term, but you have to get comfortable with losing. But NASCAR is so much fun to bet on, and fantasy wise, there's nothing else like it. It is such a rush. It's awesome. Let's see. Pastrana over Jimmy Johnson plus 160. Yes. Any head to head at Daytona that you can get plus 150 or a longer odds, you just take it. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because this, like, unless it's like Connor Daly versus Joey Logano or something. Like,
even then, Joey Logano.
Yeah. But this race is so random and so much can happen that long term, if consistently betting these, plus 150 or longer odds on head to heads, you're going to be profitable because it's all so random, and there shouldn't be this. There shouldn't be plus 160. So yeah, I would take Pastrana over Jimmy plus 160. I don't know where you can get that. If you want to let me know so I can also bet that would be awesome. Go ahead and throw that in the comments there. Any head-to-head, staying on head-to-heads, any head-to-heads that we're liking? Have you bet any head-to-heads today? I tweeted out a couple earlier this week just because Caesars posted like plus 140. Like, I don't even remember who it was, but I haven't seen any others that I like. Do you anything you like?
For head-to-heads,
Yeah.
I took that Jimmy Johnson one. Outside of that, nothing's like super amazing. There was Chase Elliott even money versus Larson, which I liked, and I missed the boat on that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. I don't care. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not super into any of this, any of the head-to-heads here.
Speaking of DraftKings and Kyle Larson, they still have him as the favorite today.
DraftKings has nailed it in this year, unfortunately.
They have completely mailed it in, and it's so disappointing. They don't have anything. Like, there's no top 10 odds. There's barely any head-to-heads. I don't even think they have like top Ford, top Toyota, top Chevy.
I'm just guessing because we crushed them so hard last year, they fired their motorsports odds maker.
You think?
Maybe. Probably.
I'll tell you what, I had a couple conversations last night at the bar. A lot of people are switching to FanDuel over DraftKings just because of, one, DraftKings sucks, but two, they like the FanDuel app a lot more than when DraftKings. And when it comes to NASCAR, I don't care what app I'm betting on. It's finding the best odds. And you know, we talk about that frequently, shop around. Even like this week, I think FanDuel has Bell at 30, and then everyone else has them at like 20 or 25. So, you know, you just got to shop around. And the Action app, if you don't have that, download it. Very easy to switch around or browse the different books and what their
yeah, exactly.
Odds
what
are.
their comparison. Compare the odds across books.
Yeah. I'm going to here. Let's do this. Any strategy game theory tips on on a single entry contest? So
or the Screaming Eagle, which is the $500 entry. Well, I don't want to give all my strategy away in the $500 entry. So
yeah.
But whatever you got, I mean,
you know, see, it's tough because I want to sit here and say, okay, fade Kyle Busch. Like, you know, a single entry, I want to fade Kyle Busch because the 121 single entry, he's probably going to be 65%.
Yeah. So
if I was doing it, I would immediately just not pick Kyle Busch. And then, but I'd still like throw in I really like Ty Dillon today. So I'm going to like throw in Ty Dillon. And I'd go for someone like a Ty Gibbs. Like, my same strategy and my same picks are going to just kind of be amplified for single entry. So like a Ty Gibbs, I'm projecting him super low owned because there's not a lot of history there with him. He has a reputation for, you know, hero or nothing. So I don't think in a single entry I would get as aggressive with the teen starters.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
because you're just hoping one of them hits, and that's like hoping and praying. So what I'm just looking for is the leverage spots, and my two of the three most leveraged optimals that I have. So I've created like a leverage optimal percentage that I want to play drivers. Two of the top three are Ty Dillon and Ty Gibbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't fully stack the back, but I would mostly, you know, we're looking at 25th or worse or 24th or worse starting positions. And outside of that, you can randomly throw in drivers. But, you know, if I was going to do single entry, I would build something like this. Like, this is just me going straight off, just off my head here randomly. I do the Dillon brothers.
I love Riley Herbst in a single entry.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Riley Herbst
I keep forgetting about Riley Herbst. Who would you take off of here and throw on Herbst? Can you see that, by the way?
I can. Honestly, either Briscoe Jones or Austin Dillon, or even Jimmy Johnson. One of those four.
Mm-hmm. Just because I don't like him, I'm going to take Austin Dillon off. And yeah, so I do a build like this. You know, I wouldn't go higher than mid-20 starting position. Then I'd fill it out and definitely try to take the guys that have the upside to a place differential that are going to be under-owned. So like even I wouldn't mind getting off of Jimmy Johnson here and going.
That's why I was throwing him in there, because I know he's going to be pretty high.
Yeah. So even if you wanted to like do that, I honestly think Pastrana is going to be lower owned than Johnson even. But even if you didn't want to go there, then you could come and get. I wouldn't take like a Stenhouse in this, or I'd stay away from Kyle Busch too, back there in the 30s. But someone like an Allmendinger or Justin Haley, even you could kind of do that, or Pastrana. I guess to quickly summarize that, I would get off the chalk even more on single entry, than I would, and I would not take the risks of the teen drivers like I would in a massive tournament, because there you're gonna need to get those. You're gonna need to take down the Millie Maker. You're gonna need to get the winner that's probably going to come from the teens. That's where I'm guessing that this winner today comes from. So that's why you need that exposure there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've heard enough to make me want to buy the RotoBaller subscription. Yes, absolutely. Use code Jordan at checkout. You're going to save $30. Get it all for $69. Also, head over to Fantasy Labs. Nick's content and their optimizer is over at Fantasy Labs. Definitely recommend that. You should try to consume as much content. And obviously, there's a lot of people don't give content for free, but if you can subscribe to as many people as possible and consume all the content that you can, it's just going to make you a better player overall. There's a lot of talented people in this industry and while we don't always all think the same, you can definitely just learn from so many people. It's good. Yeah, no top 10s or anything on DraftKings. Disappoint. Yeah. We went over this on Stacking Daddies. This is beyond disappointment now for DraftKings. Yeah. But I have to give them credit. They unbanned my account from the sports book, so I can bet on there again. Not that I have any bets on there, but
yeah.
Yeah, you can't parlay top 5 or top 10 finishes, probably because of last year. Absolutely. As soon as that top 10 parlay, $1 million parlay hit, I will always say the dumbest thing that FanDuel did last year was after that parlay hit, they stopped allowing top 10 parlays. They should have kept it until the next super speedway race, because they would have just raked. Because everybody, like, I think Darlington was the next race. Everybody would have went and did parlays on like Cody Ware and all them, and it just wasn't going to happen. So if you were lucky enough earlier this week, Bet Rivers allowed parlays on lead lap finishers. I know Nick and I got in on it.
We got in on it.
Yeah. And they actually had it open, I think, probably like 6 hours until they finally
5 or 6 hours maybe.
So someone saw it and was like, "Oh shit, we have a lot of liability here. We should probably cut this down."
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Bet Rivers, but Bet Rivers has a ton of stuff. Yeah, they offered a lot of good stuff last year as well. They're one of my favorite books. They always offer to make the championship 4, which I love, parlaying that with a race winner bet. So like I did that a couple years ago with Truex to make the final 4. I pretty much every race I'd put a small parlay on the race winner and then Truex to make the final 4. And yeah, I like Bet Rivers a lot. Although they limited me yesterday, which was annoying, but okay. Bovada has the Johnson versus Pastrana plus 160. Okay. I'm banned from Bovada, so that's fine. Cash game. What do we think? Taking the back 6 or swapping in the low 30s guys for some of the true back markers? I'm just not a fan of the pure stack the back with like Connor Daly, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod. Like but if you're just playing cash games, you think that's just a good strategy. If you're just trying to double up, I don't like the back.
Connor
stack
Daly's
the
not
back.
in the back. Connor Daly's not in the back six, so
That's true.
I don't
don't
hate
like.
it.
Yeah, who would be the final or the bottom six? So it'd be Herbst, Ty Dillon, Pastrana, Johnson.
It'd be Pastrana, Johnson, Herbst, Ty Dillon, Kyle Busch, and Cody Ware.
Yeah,
And I love Cody Ware in cash because I think he's so safe. He's
that's the first
done this
time
a lot.
that word's ever been used with him.
He's done this a lot, and he's learning how to finish these races and hang out on the lead lap. And if I had to drop one off, honestly, it's going to sound silly, but I honestly might drop off Travis Pastrana, even though he's dead last and in a 2311 car, just because I think there's some risk there with him. And I might pivot to Ty Gibbs, who's also in a 2311, except better car, JGR, and is a better driver. So I just think they're all kind of risky. You could do the back six. I don't have a problem with it. I think if I were to drop somebody off, and it's a big if, it would either be Herbst or Pastrana.
Mm-hmm.
Herbst I loved in tournaments. Maybe I'd drop Herbst off and put in Ty Gibbs or something like that.
No, I'm if I'm playing cash game, I'm perfectly fine with this lineup right here. It's because for the first time in a while, I mean, 5 of these 6 cars are legitimate cars with legitimate speed. Only one is Cody Ware, and you talked about him.
Riley Herbst is Cody Ware's teammate, right?
Yeah, but he's in. Is it still the same situation as it was with last year? Oh, they're both in Fords. I always had the opinion that 15 car was a better car than.
No, I think David Reagan's just a better driver than Cody Ware
too. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because when Cody Ware, when Garrett Smithley would be in that car, I mean, Cody Ware was better than Garrett Smithley.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just I think it's the driver talent. But I don't know if there's any little bit of assistance that Stewart Haas Racing is giving there because of Riley Herbst being a Stewart Haas guy in Xfinity. So if anything, it's potentially Riley Herbst is a better driver and potentially has a little more help, but he's also a rookie in this race. So there's that downside as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't view Ware and Herbst a ton differently, other than I think Herbst probably has more upside, and I think Ware honestly is a little safer.
Man, that's
although he does start a couple spots further forward, but I view them pretty close to the same.
Mm-hmm. Bet Rivers has Johnson versus Pastrana up. Cool. I will bet that. Nice. Ford plus 150 winning manufacturer. I'm not seeing the value there enough to bet it.
I didn't bet it. I have. I know Jim Sonis has of Number Fire has it at 41 point something %, which technically is value by a little over 1%, but I have it at 36%, I think, which I'm not showing value then. So I'm not betting Ford plus 150 as winning manufacturer because I'm not showing the value there.
Yeah, I do think a Ford's going to win this race, but I'm not betting it plus 150. I'll stick with some outright bets and go with it. Go with that. All of my stuff now is on Rotoballer. So go to Rotoballer, sign up for the NASCAR package, use code Jordan. You're going to save $30. And all of my content is there. I'm going to full fade the highest 3-owned guys in my 150. It is what it is. That is a strategy that I have definitely taken before. I don't know if I'd recommend it if you're trying not to lose. Like, I feel like you're either going to be hero or zero if you're doing this. I mean, I used to do for the mini max, I used to run a poll on my Twitter account and I would put the 3 highest owned projected guys for a race like this. And I'd be like, who should I fade? And then whatever one got the highest votes, I'd build the lineups. I'd build 150 lineups without them just because it's fun, I think. And plus it's the mini max, it's $75.
So here's my question then. Who do you think is going to be the 3 highest? Oh, not you, Jordan, but like that person, because I know we have our projections, but
Yeah,
they're still projections. They're not guaranteed 3 highest. And honestly, the 3 highest I have, like the 3rd and 4th, are pretty close. So you're just guessing at that point.
Mm-hmm. So my 3 highest projected owned are Kyle Busch, Johnson, Stenhouse.
Mine are Kyle Busch, Johnson, Stenhouse, but Hamlin 4th. And
that's exactly what I have.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We're very close this week, I guess, in terms of projected ownership.
Anthony, this isn't the same.
Kyle, Jimmy, Denny. Yeah, we have Denny 4th. We both have Denny 4th, and we both have Stenhouse 3rd.
Yeah, but mine's within 1%.
Mine's within 1.5%.
Yeah. So
what do you have Denny then?
I have Denny 4th at 25.23, and I have Stenhouse at 26.3.
I have Denny at 28.3 and Stenhouse at 30.3.
Yeah. Mine are a little bit lower than yours. I think that.
But still the same order.
All right. Let's see. Any questions I missed here? We didn't talk much about William Byron. I mean, he's won at Daytona before. He's starting in that range that it's just difficult on what exactly you want to do with him. I actually have him projected as the 8th highest owned on the slate, so I like being underweight on him a little bit. I am projected about 20%. I'm probably going to go like 15 is probably where I'm going to end up. I have
him as the 5th highest owned on the slate.
Really?
Yeah. But that's fine by me because I also have him projected as the 3rd most likely to win the race. And the highest Chevy, even over Chase Elliott. I have him 1 spot higher than Chase Elliott among all drivers. So my top 5 in terms of 2 spots over Elliott. My top 5 in terms of win probability are Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott. But they're all smushed within like a 10th or 2 of each other. So it's not like I'm saying William Byron's better than Chase Elliott because it's 4.7 versus 4.63, right? So it's 0.07 difference between Byron and Chase Elliott, with Logano sandwiched between them. So I'm not really saying they're any different. But my point is, my model's high on Byron. So even if my ownership projection is a little higher, my model is still high. My projections are still high. So I'm projecting Byron to do well, but I also have his ownership projection kind of high. So again, just a driver where things are kind of matching up for me. So I just want to be in that equal weight neighborhood as far as lineups goes. So if I have him projected, let's say low to mid 20s for ownership, I have him low to mid 20s for my usage as well.
Right now I have 1st through 9th deleted. Do you think I should add a small percentage of them? It depends on how many lineups you're doing, I think, but I'm perfectly fine with not have, like, if you're only doing 20, I don't mind not having the top 9 starters.
Yeah, so I agree with that. If you're only doing 20, right? 1 out of 20 is 5%. And the first driver that I have over 5% is Chase Elliott. And let me pull up his starting position. He's 8th. So, if I played a driver more than 5% inside the top 9, if I played a driver in the top 9, it would probably be 1 lineup of Chase Elliott. If you're doing a 20 entry, so it all depends on how many entries you have and things like that. But yeah, there's no problem fading the front 9. I think Chris Bell, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, they all can end up in the optimal. So
they're going to need to win though.
Absolutely. They're going to need to win.
Bell for sure is going to need to win. Blaney probably going to need to win starting 7th.
But the thing is, you bet Bell to win.
Yeah.
So he can win, right? So
I
don't mind having And again, my target on Bell here is about 1.5%. I'm not saying I'm playing a ton of them, but I've got him as a target at 1.5%.
So that's something that you and I have talked about before. I'm basically hedging. I have Bell outright to win, but I'm not going to play him in DFS.
Yeah.
So
and both can be good bets. Like both can be like I'm fading Bell in DFS, but I'm betting the win because you could even win and still not end up in the optimal lineup, just depending on how things shake out. So you could end up hitting both. You could end up crushing all of DFS and winning Bell outright. And that's because betting and DFS are different. Just in terms of what the specific things. I mean, every market's different. So it's a very fun way to potentially have a natural hedge where both things are plus EV and it's a hedge.
Yeah. Kyle Busch plus 150 versus Logano for stage 1 head to head.
Yes. We talked about this earlier. You and I did, Jordan. Yes. I love it.
We really like Kyle Busch. We're both on Kyle Busch to win stage 1. So
he was plus 167 earlier in the week versus Joey Logano. We love that. Still love it at plus 150.
Yep. Absolutely. Any limit for salary left on the table? Nope. Do not even think about salary.
I don't give a shit about salary. The only thing I did for salary was I didn't want it to be $50,000 because there are enough dumbs in the Millie Maker that'll do that. So if I hit the million and I split it 15 ways, it's going to be annoying anyway. And whatever, I'm going to be pissed. So I just said I'm not going to do $50,000. It's basically the only rule I set.
Warm day down here in Daytona, make for a slicker track. I'm just hoping that there's no rain in turn 1 when the field's still going green.
Well, so last year it was a warmer day because we got rain delayed, and then goes into the evening anyway. So all hell broke loose. So it is what it is. It's Daytona. I'm not worried about warm, cold, whatever. It's Daytona. They're going to get crazy in stage 3. They always do.
Did you see that tweet about 10 minutes ago? First Sunday of the year, and you're going to let RotoDoc crack open the first cold one?
I did see that.
I haven't started.
I don't. So it's 9 a.m. for me, right? I don't drink at 9 a.m. unless it's the Daytona 500. Unless it's the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
Or the Indy 500.
If you guys have any other questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to them. Let's see here. Would you play Austin Hill or Chandler Smith today?
I hope all of you entering the Millionaire Maker play Austin Hill and Chandler Smith. That'd be very good strategy.
The thing is, like, they're gonna get probably like 0.5% ownership.
Yeah, they always get like 0.3 or 0.4 or some bullshit like that.
Yeah. And they're gonna outscore probably quite a few
half
drivers.
The drivers.
But yeah, they do not pick them, please. All right. I don't see any more questions. Do you have anything else you want to talk about, or I got to get to building lineups?
I'm good. Like I said, I haven't even chosen my 150 for the Millie yet, so got to do that.
Talk me out of being bullish on Burton, man. I can't. I'm not going to talk you out of that. If you like him, go for it. The only people I'm gonna talk anybody out of is the top 5 starters. Like that's my only rule for today. Do not pick the top 5.
I'll talk you out of being bullish on Burton.
Here we go.
Let me come over here to my sheet. Well, we did talk about him, and you have him 7% projected. I have him 6.6% projected, but I have him 9% projected as optimal. So my optimal leverage play is about 10% on Burton. So I don't think you need to go ham on Harrison Burton. You don't need to go 20%. If you're at 15%, you're already crushing the field by almost 2x in terms of usage. And there's every reason to think he also, doesn't end up in the optimal lineup given the ride he has, where he's driving, his experience level in Cup. So I don't think there's any reason to go nutso on him. 15% is a very solid overweight play on him. I'm not even probably going to be at 15% unless my random lineup picking gets much higher than the 9.9 or 10% target I have on him.
Brad Keselowski, very strong in last year's Daytona 500, starting 10th. It's that fringe starting position. I think he's another one. He's going to have to finish top 2, top 3 to even get close.
He did dominate last year, which is an important point because if you're starting 10th, that domination will help you get in the optimal lineup if you win or even finish second. But he didn't look like he had a dominant car in his duel,
right?
If you remember that. Plus, he kind of looked like he fell off in the second half of the year on those super speedways. He wasn't as dominant as the Daytona 500. And especially I know it's Atlanta, but both those Atlanta races, he just wasn't there. Those RFK cars just weren't quite there. So I'm not I like him, but I also don't dislike him. I mean, he's Brad Keselowski at Daytona. He's always in the mix, or very often has a chance to be in the mix. He's super aggressive. So yeah, he could win it. I just question the dominance level of that car. Even if you watched the duel, he had trouble just making moves and getting to the front, right? So it was tough for him to just get to the front and make moves and pass for the lead. I think he got up into the front couple, 3 or 4 cars at one point, but just didn't make anything of it. So that's kind of what I noticed from Brad Keselowski in his duel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there with you. I'm typically underweight on Keselowski at Daytona. It's just a kind of a rule of mine. And
Logano,
obviously,
Kez.
Yeah. Over under 8 cautions. I'm going under.
So
I think we get a tame race today.
I feel the opposite. I think we get absolute batshit chaos. What I noticed in the duels, man, if you hit each other, if you bump draft, those cars were all over the fucking place in the bump drafts. And those bumps are going to get harder and harder and harder as the race goes on. And those blocks are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so while people may cut each other some slack early in the race, I think there's going to be chaos. And if we look in the stage era, we've had 7, 7, 8, 9, 9, and 12, or 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, and 12. So either way, over 7.5. Because over under 8, well, what if it's 8? Is that a push? I guess. So that's why we always throw the half in there on 7.5 or 8.5. But I think we get over 7.5 for sure. I'm not for sure, but I feel like it's a very good possibility with these cars.
I'll do a line over under 2.5 cars that Keselowski wrecks. Directly wrecks, not caught up in a wreck.
I'm gonna say under because I think he looked at last year and realized that didn't work. Because we didn't see that in the latter half of the year at the super speedways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say under, but it's not a bad line. I mean, it's Keselowski for the 500. We know he's never won it. We know he wants to. We know this is one of his good chances to get into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. There's a guy we didn't talk about.
Under.
Tyler Reddick.
Tough one. Very tough one. Very good question.
Yeah, because starting 26th, he's going to get a good chunk of ownership. He's not good at super speedways. He's one of those that he's
been in the mix for a win before. I remember he took the lead and then just wrecked it. Blocking at Daytona a year or two ago, maybe his rookie year or second year. But you're right. Other than that, he hasn't been amazing. He didn't look good in his duel. So yeah, tough one. But he's in that starting spot, 26th, where he could end up in the optimal as long as he doesn't screw things up because he's got a good enough car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like Daniel Suarez is the exact same situation, and we both love Daniel Suarez, but I'm going to be under on Tyler Reddick. And that's all just based on how I think the rest of this DFS field is going to play this race. I think Reddick's going to be higher owned. Reddick's definitely going to be higher owned than Suarez.
Yeah, I've got Suarez at like 14-ish%. I've got Reddick at 22-ish%. So right there with you. I think they're going to be, even though they're in the similar range and they have similar outcome expectations, I think Reddick's going to be quite a bit higher owned than Suarez.
Now owner of a RotoBall membership, thank you very much. Like I said, guys, go to RotoBaller, use code Jordan at checkout. You're going to save $30. Get all my content this year for $69. It's a pretty damn good deal, I think.
It's a nice deal.
Yeah, not feeling Ty Dillon. Yeah, so if you're not feeling Ty Dillon, Pastrana, Johnson, Herbst. If you wanted to go Kyle Busch,
Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs. Flip a coin, roll a die, do something. I love Ty Dillon today, though. Like, and what's going to happen? What always happens is when I really like a guy like that, he's going to wreck out. He's going to be the first one in a wreck. But Ty Dillon's really good at super speedway racing and surviving.
Yep,
really good at finishing in that teens position. So the fact that he's starting 37th and he just knows how to avoid these wrecks, I like it.
Ty Dillon finished 11th last year, so that's there's always the potential he finishes 11th, and because he's starting, 37th? If he finishes 11th, he'll probably be in the optimal.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. And I think we got to all the questions here. So make sure you go over to Fantasy Labs, subscribe to Nick's content this year, my content over at RotoBaller, use code Jordan. Listen to Stacking Denny's each week. We have a lot of fun with that show. Hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, hopefully we do some more of these live streams. I like doing it. I really like doing live streams for the non-Daytona and Talladega races. Because like when I'm building lineups for Daytona, it's all goes into an optimizer. I put my rules in and I crank up the randomness and then I just roll with it. And I get my percentages. That's how much it's not that I don't care. It's that I don't care what the lineup is. Whereas, if we're at New Hampshire, if we're at Martinsville or something, I have a specific strategy I want to take. So thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully you learned some stuff. Good luck today. Nick, I hope you win that Millie Maker.
We'll try.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get the situation we had last year. We were leading it with 12 to go, and last wreck took us out. I guess technically the second to last wreck, but it ended up so.
You and I were both on Gilliland and Harvick so much last year.
Yeah.
And they were looking great until that. So, oh well. All right, this should be a good race. Hopefully, we don't get any rain at Daytona. It's Florida, so we know what can happen.
Always a chance.
Yep. Hey, but yeah, good luck to everybody. Bets fantasy wise, and enjoy the race. See you guys.
See y'all.